Hello and welcome back to our interviews with Euro's amazing members around the world. It's a great pleasure, as it always is, to talk to you, Andrew. I'll introduce you. Andrew Scott is Vice President for Dwellworks, based in the UK, but until a few weeks ago, travelling all over the world. Andrew is a member of the Euro board and is also a past president of Euro. And in the time that I've known you, which is many years, we have had some amazing conversations and discussions about our industry and how it's moving on. And in your role with Dwellworks, I know Dwellworks is a truly international, multifaceted organisation. How are your teams right now?
I just think they're amazingly resilient. Everybody's working from home. I think pretty much everyone. We have a few people who, if I say diehards, I mean that in the nicest possible way. In Germany, who want to be in the office and are able to be.
Yes.
But yeah, it never kind of ceases me every day just to see some of the things that are going on and that people are doing, and a lot of it is just to kind of keep the team together. And that doesn't mean it's always the managers or the leaders of the teams. It's just the kind of the teams themselves. And that's kind of across all our business lines. And that has been, really kind of heartwarming and humbling just to see, that people are, putting out their arm, so to speak, around others. Is there anything we can do to help? Because, there's all this crazy things that are happening and it's affecting some people more than others because of family, because of all sorts of reasons. But in terms of, I guess, day to day, right now, and we're just early June, the beginning of June, sorry.
Yes.
It's much more focus on getting back to work, being ready to get back to work. What do we think that is going to look like and need to look like? Some services have already started to take place in terms of some kind of searches, in the UK and Germany, Luxembourg, and Ireland. And I think, actually, as I understand it, pretty much every country. I'm not saying, that they're being conducted the way that they were previously, because there's obviously various restrictions, and the safety of our own people and our customers is absolutely paramount. So again, through our supply chain, it's been amazing, some of the creative ideas, and taking what the government is saying, taking the requirements of some of the customers, and then putting something together that's meaningful and useful to the individual family who needs the service. It amazes me every day how these things happen. But in terms of, I guess, the go forward, one of the things that we're facing in the UK is, as of next week, anybody who's coming into the country, it's going to be quarantined. So this week it's around how do we make sure that, because there are people who are going to be arriving and then going to stay in, one of the service departments or corporate departments that we would have organised for them. How do we make sure that they can even get from, the airport to the accommodation, and is the accommodation and the provider there, adhering to appropriate rules, regulations, etc. And how do we then make sure that those people are going to have enough food if they're not able to go out, etc., etc. So there's kind of lots going on, and I know in other countries, they're facing similar things. I was on a call earlier with a colleague, and he was saying about Hong Kong, how Hong Kong, in essence, was pretty much getting back to normal.
Yeah.
But they have now stopping stopping anybody coming into the country. So again, it's implications of what does that mean for people who may already be there and thought perhaps they were going to be leaving, sorting out accommodation, etc., etc. So it's lots going on, and in the US, as I understand it, it's different things are happening in different states. So again, it's how do the team make sure that we're keeping the customers up to date, that in the tri-state, we can deliver this for you, but if somebody's going into California, or it may need to look like this. So yeah, it's busy times, but not necessarily busy with just delivering the services, making sure that we're getting things ready. And then that just seems to be changing almost daily in some countries.
It really does, and certainly from the people the Euro members that we've all been talking to, we've all been talking to each other. There are just such huge differences in what's going on, and tracking that is really difficult. I mean, I spoke to your colleague Dima Lorenz in Hong Kong the week before last, and I think things were opening back up, but now, of course, they've stopped people coming back in. The UK has implemented the 14-day rule as of next week, which I'm guessing, because when I first heard that, it didn't make a lot of sense, but I'm guessing this is because we're restarting aviation. And so as aviation restarts in many countries, they're then putting that quarantine in place. In terms of things like, your assignees going into your corporate housing provision, what are the quarantine rules? I mean, have they been adequately explained? I mean, I know that we're talking about the UK, but the same in the US, the same in China, the same in Ireland, the same in Germany, the same in Mexico. Are you getting enough information to actually be able to say, these are the definitive rules, you can go to the supermarket, you can go to the pharmacy, but everything else we've got to do for you?
I think the answer is yes, and I guess we're fortunate with having, a lot of our own people in the countries that we operate in, and
following very closely. Yeah.
Take Germany as a good example. Germany, the different cities have different rules. But because we've got people who are there, you can go to government websites in all countries, but it's often worth going to the locals and saying, this is what we understand. Is it practical? Could we be able to deliver A, B, and C? And is that actually what's happening? And we have an amazing team who are kind of collating all that information and then providing kind of updates internally, and externally as well. But that's a big job, and it's the amount of time that is being spent, but it needs to be, because things are changing quickly, and the Hong Kong situation is a perfect example. So where there were customers who were due to be heading over there because things seem to be getting more back to normal, it's kind of what's the knock-on effect. It's not just saying, sorry, you can't now come, although that it is actually physically can't get into the country, but does that have any other knock-on effects? And how do you deliver that message? And is there a plan B? And what could the plan B look like? So
it's very confusing in that we kind of we went into lockdown and it was all very simple. This is what's happening all over the world. Coming out of it is unbelievably complex in our industry in particular. I was going to ask, so you mentioned before about you US, Ireland, UK, Germany, Mexico, China, all over. How are you implementing different processes for starting up things like home searches again? Are you going via a kind of a protocol, or are you following the different levels of strictness that governments are putting in place?
I mean, we're obviously listening to what governments are saying, what the WHO is saying, and also what are we doing in other countries? So if the level, for instance, in China is up here, but actually it doesn't need to be the same in another country. We're saying, well, actually, we can adopt the same, as long as it's not going to have a detrimental effect on what you need to deliver. But in the main, where there are differences, it's sometimes around, it could even be down to, well, how many people would be allowed to view an apartment at the same time? And our responses to that will keep it an absolute minimum. Even if they say you could have 4 or 5 people, do we actually need to have 4 or 5 people? So but the challenge is also then, how do we kind of collect all this information and make sure that we're still delivering to our brand, how we would like things to be delivered, but we know there are local nuances. But there's always local nuances, pre-COVID anyway. Things slightly different way. But it's been hours and hours, as I'm sure everyone is on, Zooms or WebEx or Team, whatever the system you use. So that kind of people are talking even more to make sure that we're getting the right message, so that can be then, consistently passed back to the corporate client and the individuals and the families. So, and that has been a good thing that has come out of all of this. I think is just the extra kind of team bonding and building, albeit it's virtual, but it's I've noticed it's been great to see that.
Yeah, it's weird how being separated has actually kind of forced us into having much more communication than normal. I'm loving it, I have to say. It's very interesting, again, though, from the point of view that you talk about different countries. I mean, we're even talking about, like you said, with Germany, like you said, with the United States, not just regionalities across states in Germany and the US, but regionalities within states. I mean, I was talking to a colleague in the States yesterday saying there are states that 90% of the area has never had a COVID case. And so therefore, do you work to the same standards? That is an impossible, that's an impossible decision.
I mean, it's interesting just in, let's say, the UK. So, I mean, we've been doing, regular updates to customers about the UK, but now it's actually England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, because things are happening differently. There's different rules and regulations.
There's very different rules in Scotland.
Would we have thought that was the case a month ago? Probably not. But as people, I think, are now realising, or governments are, it's so difficult to start everything again. And how do you start it? Even in this small island that we're on, we've got 4 versions of it. So
absolutely true. Absolutely true. I mean, from the point of view of the communications that you're having with your clients, I know that pretty well everyone I've spoken to said assignments have not been stopped; they're just pushed ahead. They're just being pushed forward right now. Is there any reluctance to the moves, or are people still thinking, I'm still going to Frankfurt, I'm excited about it, it was my plan at the beginning of the year, this is what we're doing, I'm not going to let this stand in my way? Or are people going, maybe I'll stay home? Or do you not know yet? Is it too early to tell?
Good. It's a good question, because we were talking about that internally. I think at the moment it still seems to be, or the consensus seems to be, that was the plan. So that's what we're going to do. Whether that will now become, not sure if I now will do that. I think we'll kind of wait and see. But there's been, kind of more positive noise from customers around, they haven't cancelled things, it's on hold, and, as soon as we're in a position to move people, we plan on doing that. Because businesses kind of need to get back to new normal, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether there'll be, I'm sure there'll be people who decide, actually, I don't now need to move, or I don't want to move, but will that be a significant, percentage?
Yeah, it's just about time, isn't it? I think everything, people get used to things very quickly. I remember somebody, a very good friend of mine, saying at the very beginning of this, it takes 40 days in neuroscience to rewrite pathways in your brain to accept completely new habits. But it's been like 79 now. So yeah, it's a gradual process for all of us psychologically. I mean, we were saying before the call, you and I are supposed to be at a board meeting in a location I can't disclose, because we'll hopefully be running the conference there at some point. And it made me think, if at the beginning of last week, EasyJet had said, right, we're flying again, would I have got on that plane? I'd like to think I would have done, but faced with that decision, I'm not. I don't know. It's human nature. So, in terms of how you're planning on moving forward and how you're putting all these processes in place across your different business lines, one thing I would love to ask about is Dwellworks is very active in corporate housing, and is that classed similarly to hospitality, or is it different? Can you operate more effectively than, say, a hotel chain?
I mean, a hotel. I mean, someone staying in a hotel tends to be short term. Unless you're going on holiday and it's a beachfront kind of experience. So corporate housing, service department, more temporary housing tends to be longer stay. And a lot of the organisations that have units will often have a minimum length of stay. Some of it is because that neighbourhood or that city has a minimum length of stay.
Sure.
Do we need to be able to provide, a hotel stay accommodation? Yes, we do. I mean, that does form part of the significant global network. But I suppose one of the things that I've seen over the last few years is whereas companies would say maybe if it's a 14-day stay, people would stay in hotels. There's been more of a shift to anything over 7 days, we'd like you to consider staying in an apartment.
Well, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Would you rather be in an apartment or a hotel room? But in terms of the the situation that we find ourselves in now, is the corporate housing sector of Dwellworks operating, obviously not at full capacity, but I mean, you have units operating, people in those units, unlike a lot of hotel businesses which have been totally shut down, right?
Yeah, so there are, around the globe, many hundreds of people in units as we speak. And some had planned on being there for a short period of time and actually ended up being there for an extended period of time.
Yes.
Some is still extended. Have there been many people moving into apartments? Not that many, because a lot of countries it's been difficult to leave and to get into. But over the last 2 weeks, we have seen more of the bookings that were August, kind of September, and saying, actually, could we come in July? Because our company's keen to get us moved. So, again, it seems it's a positive step forward in that, organisations, business still needs to run, it still needs to work. And, for us, it's, making sure that, when guests are coming or even the ones that are staying, are we able to look after them and deliver the, service that we need to? And again, some things that some of the operators have been doing has been amazing because, they haven't necessarily been able to go in, and clean like normally would because social distancing, but some of the measures and things people have done to make sure that the customers are still being looked after, the guests are still being looked after, organising shopping. I mean, it's just, again, it's amazing, the resilience and innovation and things that people come up with to kind of make life still keep going and be more than bearable.
It is it's one of those, it's a sector that to me has always, I've always, it's a big part of Europe, and I've always found that, the people in the corporate housing world are the sort of people who would be in hospitality, and they have that real wish to, provide a great service and to be hosts.
I mean, there's, I'm just kind of thinking through a lot of the people who I know in this sector have been in hospitality.
Yes. It's just what I was thinking.
I'm saying it's a prerequisite, but it's kind of, I suppose maybe it's, it's been a natural transition. Mm-hmm. As back in the day in the relo world, there were a lot of people. I was one that was in real estate and
Yeah.
got into, what was kind of home sale work because it was.
Exactly. And from the point of view of how things are moving forward now, the processes that I know quite a few people in your management team. You've got amazing people who I know will be thinking through every degree of how things go forward now for your clients. Do you are you sort of aiming at, yes, if this all goes according to plan, we will continue with certain different, I'm trying to get to the idea of how long do you think we are going to be in this world where you won't be in a car with an assignee, you might be doing virtual tours of houses, you may be keeping people in corporate houses. How long do you think that, given that we know nothing? Sorry, it's terrible.
Going back to virtual, I think one of the things that we found over the last few months is that actually you can deliver a virtual experience, and that has been something that customers have been asking about for some time. Is how can you bring real value doing that? Because there's probably a lot of customers who they'd have been happy kind of with that level of service. Some, that's what they had to have recently. And I think going forward, it will just, it's even more of a springboard to get to that point. That doesn't mean that, the standard kind of service that people have been getting for many years will diminish. Or I think may diminish in terms of volume, but it'll still be there because it's going to be necessary for some people. And in some countries, it's absolutely essential. But I think there will be a shift to more virtual. And, it's something, we've got some, our clever brain folks who kind of have been on that, and some of the lessons that we've, learned over the last few months in some of the countries. It's made us think, actually, there's more we can do with this maybe quicker than we thought.
I was talking to Christine Martin in Barcelona last week, and she said we've been doing the same thing. We've been doing virtual tours, but she said not the virtual tours that are trying to get the person to take the apartment, but the virtual tours that make them realise what it's really like. Not the kind of, there's a beautiful chandelier here and a corner sectional sofa, because obviously the liability, and we've talked a lot about liability, is that then somebody finds themselves in an apartment and says, no, you didn't tell me about blah, 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 and I don't want to be here anymore. You can't break the lease.
Yeah. But also some of the virtual tours that we have been doing is where the customer has been able to visit, say, the unit or the apartment, but we haven't been able to be there with them.
Right.
It's just not been possible. So, but we're there virtually with them, which often has been on this.
Yeah.
Talking to them, and they're showing them, this is what I'm seeing, and they're having this, pretty intense dialogue.
Yeah.
Which to me, I thought, that would feel strange, but the feedback we've had from customers, that's great. My buddy is here, they're talking to me, and they can see it. So that's, as opposed to, I'm looking at the apartment and I'm showing you it. Do you want to take it? And there's always
that's much,
dangers fraught with that. On stepping to the corporate housing side, I mean, that's very much what people do anyway, but often because it's shorter term. But if you can show them, realistically, this is what it looks like, people are kind of comfortable to buy on that, because that's how we buy our holidays often, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Press click and away you go.
Exactly. Yeah, it's something that I guess we're all much more used to now, and I get the skill of the consultant is still exactly as it was before. Like you say, well, that is a normal sized bedroom for an apartment in Frankfurt. This is not a terribly small apartment. It's the reality of their knowledge, and also you know, that, you know, they're able to give the neighbourhood knowledge. So really, like you say, the information is still there. It's just being sparked across in a different way.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know, with the consultants, and it never ceases to amaze me, you know, how amazing these folks are. Is because, you know, if it was me and I'm turning up in a new country, and, you know, I've got that to face, let alone it could be a new job, it could be bringing a family, and you meet someone who says, this is the best one that you're going to see, I think you
Yes.
take it. It's like, who are you?
Okay.
It's how they build that confidence and
Yeah.
trust, that they'd be saying to me, they want $2,000, I think you're going to need to pay $2,000, and people are comfortable with that, I trust you. And it's how they build that trust that quick, and along with all the knowledge and experience, and I guess that's kind of part of it. So
that building trust piece is huge. Yeah, exactly. And a big, you know, shout out to all of the teams across Dwellworks, because your take up of the NIM program has been absolutely huge. And a lot of that skill set, the kind of anticipating somebody, the building the trust, just quick plug, is in the Coaching Approaches to Mobility program, free to all Euro members for the foreseeable future. Andrew, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. It's always a real pleasure.
Thank you, as always.
And I'd love to come back and have a conversation again, say end of the summer, see where we are. That would be great. I mean, obviously you and I will talk anytime, but that would be fantastic. But in the meantime, thank you very much for taking the time. It's always great to have your insights, and take care and stay well.
Yeah. And you, and the rest of your team.
Thank you very much indeed. Lovely to see you.